Yo, what is up, guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, some interesting news coming out of the British boxing scene. Light heavyweight prospect Joshua Buatsi has announced that he has changed trainer, and he will now be trained by Virgil Hunter. Of course, Virgil Hunter once trained Andre Ward, and he had a very successful partnership with Ward. It seems like Buatsi will actually move out to the States to train with Virgil Hunter, and yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on this story. Of course, Buatsi, a top-rated prospect in the UK, Olympic bronze medalist, and he certainly has potential. Naturally quite an aggressive fighter, good combination puncher, he's mean, he's got some spite, and yeah, all around he's a good prospect. But in his last fight against Marco Kalic, there were certain holes that were exposed in Joshua Buatsi's defence, particularly with Kalic's straight punches. Kalic was finding the target on Buatsi far too easily for my liking, and defensively I think that fight showed Buatsi still has some work to go. Now, is Virgil Hunter the guy to actually tighten up Joshua Buatsi, make him more aware defensively, but also keep that offensive edge to his game? Now, to me, it's an interesting move. The positive for me is that Buatsi is actually leaving his comfort zone and going out to the USA to train. Now, to me, the good thing about that is the access of quality sparring in the USA. I think it's going to be more readily available for Joshua Buatsi, and that's one area where I think UK fighters actually neglect in their training when they turn pro. A lot of these guys kind of stick in their comfort zones, they spar the same guys, they don't spar too many international fighters, and sometimes I think, that lack of hard sparring can cost a lot of prospects their careers going forwards at the highest level. I think Buatsi going to the US is actually really good to counteract that, and I would imagine he's going to get some real good sparring out there. So that's a positive. But is Virgil Hunter the right man for Joshua Buatsi? I'm not entirely convinced, I have to say. Virgil Hunter obviously is a good trainer. He did great with Andre Ward. But Andre Ward aside, when Virgil Hunter took fighters who were already in their careers, no matter what stage, Virgil Hunter never really managed to change any of these guys. Of course, Andre Berto, nothing really came of that relationship. You had Alfredo Angulo, again, nothing really came from that. Even Amir Khan, to me, Amir Khan wasn't quite as good with Virgil Hunter as he was with Freddie Roach. And all of these guys, for me, were quite offensive fighters, but under Virgil Hunter, he never really managed to take these guys to the next level. And of course, it's always hard to kind of change a guy who's stuck in his ways. There's no doubt about that. Maybe Joshua Buatsi going out there when he's younger in his pro career is more beneficial for Virgil Hunter to work with. But I'm not all that convinced with Virgil Hunter, especially when you match him up with a naturally aggressive fighter like a Joshua Buatsi. But having said that, like I said earlier, Buatsi is younger in his career than those guys I previously mentioned, so that could be a good thing. But yeah, there's no doubt about it, Buatsi defensively certainly needs to tighten up. Buatsi, like I say, he's aggressive, he's good at mid-range, he's pretty good on the inside, and of course Andre Ward was a very good inside fighter who could always take care of himself. Maybe stylistically Buatsi, because he's comfortable at mid-range and on the inside, maybe Virgil can actually work with that and actually tighten Buatsi up. Maybe make him stand on more side on, because when Buatsi opens up with his combinations, he is actually quite square on when he throws, and that's why Marco Kalic was able to throw a lot of straight punches and land on Buatsi. These are the sort of things Virgil needs to tighten up. Maybe foot positioning, coming in side on, head positioning on the inside, protecting himself while he can still get his own shots off, kind of thing. These are the things that Buatsi needs to improve on, in my opinion. He's always going to be aggressive, but there are things that need to be adjusted in Buatsi's game. Who knows? Maybe Virgil Hunter is the guy to do that. I'm not entirely convinced, but at the same time, I think him being in the States, Buatsi, I think that's a great move for him, just based on sparring and training and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. It's an interesting partnership. And of course, also, Andre Ward is still very close to Virgil Hunter. maybe Andre Ward can be another set of eyes and another opinion that Buatsi can learn from and get better in the future. So all in all, this is an interesting move. I'm not completely writing this off. You know, it's got the potential to work, but I'm not really prepared to commit that it will work, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's interesting, and I guess I'm optimistic that Virgil Hunter can improve Buatsi, because I do think there is something to work with there with Buatsi. So we shall see what happens. But anyway, share your thoughts below. What do you make of this move for Joshua Buatsi? Do you believe Virgil Hunter is a good fit for Buatsi? Or, like me, are you not convinced by Hunter when it comes to certain other fighters? If you're asking me the question, I actually believe someone like Derek James would be a much better trainer for Buatsi, given his style, likes to work the body, comfortable up close, at mid-range, etc. He's aggressive. I think Derek James would have actually been a better fit for Buatsi. And somebody mentioned that in my previous video on Joseph Parker. There was a comment about Buatsi going with Virgil Hunter, and one of the replies was actually, I think it was from Conor Gallagher, and he mentioned Derek James, I believe. So I agree with that. I think Derek James would have been much more suited to Joshua Buatsi. But there we go. We shall see what happens here. We'll see how it pans out. Share your thoughts below anyway. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.